Introducing Minor Wisdom Quintet.
1, 2, a skidda-didda-doo.
Minor Wisdom.
School is finally out. For me, I know it's still in session for some districts, HISD, Houston ISD for one, being one of the larger ones, but I'm finally out of school. Really want to thank the Fort Bend family, all the people in Fort Bend, spending the last 7 years there, 8 years there, and my wife being there for 12. It was awesome. It was really great. It was a really great experience. I made friends that I would have never made. Had it not been for Fort Bend, I took leaps that I would have never made. Had it not been for Fort Bend, I was in leadership positions. I am in leadership positions. I'm doing this podcast, and mostly because of Fort Bend. Produced an entire award show for a district. Had a great time. So I want to thank everybody. Too many names to name, but my time is done. And our time is done because Jennifer, I didn't really plead, but I pleaded last week about Jennifer trying to get a job, and she did. This week, everything just worked out really great. Super blessed. Not a huge religious person, but maybe this whole experience will make me one. But Jennifer got a job. I'm not going to say where yet because I don't want to jinx it because technically the dotted line has not been signed, but super excited for her to get this opportunity as well for a change. The change wasn't a needed change. We didn't want to leave. We weren't looking to leave. And it's just the way that the cookie crumbled, the way the cards fell, the way the dominoes fall, all these cliches, all that kind of stuff. But we're super excited for the new opportunity, super excited to move into the Tomball area, be in the Klein district, and all that good stuff. Still in Harris County, still those stupid Harris County taxes. We thought we got away with those, or got away from them, not got away with them, but got away from them, and we didn't. So anyway, we're back. We're back, Harris County. So this week I've got the elusive Tim Unroe. Tim is one of those guys that he does not feel worthy of our time. He does not think that we want to hear from him. And I completely disagree. I think there is a large audience, in my opinion, maybe you'll prove me right or wrong, that wants to know what Tim Unroe thinks and why his theater and shows are the way they are. And I'm going to tell you, you don't get the answer in this podcast, in this episode. You get to know Tim Unroe, don't get me wrong. We sat down and face-to-face, finally, amongst beverages and food, and we had a really good time. And I got to know Tim really, really well. I think I've gotten to know Tim over the past, year. It's crazy. Of all the people that I didn't think I would get to know during a worldwide pandemic, I got to know Tim Unroe actually a little better. So I had a great time with him. Now I will say a couple things. Tim and I are similar. We have very similar personalities. You're going to hear Tim say some very tongue-in-cheek things that might not read that way on a podcast. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. If you know Tim, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's Tim. So just, take that for what you will, but it was very fun. Super funny guy, dry. The Sahara is kind of jealous of his sense of humor. That's what my father used to tell me. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. And also the other thing is you're going to hear at the very beginning, we're talking about baseball off the mic. Before I start recording, we're talking about baseball. And so you hear us reference that. We will reference that right at the top. So I didn't want you to be lost, but Tim is a huge baseball fan, or was a huge baseball fan, and is still a fan. You'll hear him talk about that a little bit. But we just started by discussing that. We ate. We had a couple of libations beforehand, and then I hit record, and we went off and running. It wasn't anything inappropriate. We didn't have that many libations, but we did have a couple just to kind of hang out like a buzz and have a good time. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Make sure you are subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you want to subscribe. Go follow me on Twitter at Mr. Blake Minor. Become my friend on Facebook, whatever it is you want to do. And I am shamelessly now including Cash App and Venmo. in the profile. I've been advised to do that because I'm not doing ads. I'm not running ads in this podcast. I'm not looking to make money off of this podcast. But, if you like what you hear and you want to motivate me to make content, because I'm not going to lie, it's getting more and more difficult to reach out to people to make content. And I would love recommendations on content. I know that TXCTA has thrown my link into the newsletter, and I appreciate that. But I would love, if you're new to this, throw out some people that you'd like to hear. And I would love to try to get them on and get to know them and see what I can get out of them in the world of Texas theater education. So, yeah, that's my kind of like sort of elementary elevator pitch, I guess, if you will. So, I hope everybody has a good week. I hope if you are out for summer vacation, you are taking full advantage of that and just raging. I hope you have a great, wonderful week. Enjoy this week's interview with the elusive Tim Unroe.
Well, we were just talking about the Astros. The honest truth is I didn't know that I wanted to teach. I didn't know too much about theater, really, at all. I just didn't, I was going to possibly coach baseball or coach football. And at that point in my life, up until now, I didn't want to be outside.
Right.
And so I hate being hot.
About that indoor football league.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. And so I was like, I don't want to coach, and so I'll do theater.
Right.
And that's pretty much the thing.
But did you do theater when you were a kid? Were you an athlete that did?
Well, when I was in high school, my theater teacher recruited the football players and whatever. And so basically, because of baseball and football, I did one theater show a year. Got to my senior year and tore my rotator's cup. And it's one of those things where it's like when you're in high school, up until a point, it doesn't really occur to you that you can do something different. It's just I've been playing sports all my life, and when I tore my rotator's cup, it gave me sort of time. It was towards the end. It was during baseball, so it was in the spring semester, and sort of thought to myself, I don't actually like this anymore.
But you're a right brain. Do you consider yourself right brain?
I don't actually know. What is right brain?
So right brain is like a design, you see the world in kind of a design, artistic kind of way.
No.
So you're more math, geometric.
No.
When you do a lighting design, this will answer this will talk. When you do a lighting design, is your plot symmetrical, or is it I put a light where I need a light?
Kind of both, and I don't mean to be difficult about it, but when it comes to designing and things like that, I do plan out what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And the answer to the unspoken question is it symmetrical? It's always symmetrical.
And then you build off of that.
And then sort of build off of that. But when I went to basically, I'd done when I graduated from high school, I still didn't know where I wanted to go, and did a musical. A friend of mine was like, "You should come do this musical," and I was like, "I don't know anything about musicals. I don't really."
Why did that friend think you were?
I think she was just looking for somebody to hang out with during the summer, and I was like, I don't know. She was like, well, there'll be a lot of girls there, and there's a lot of parties and this sort of thing. And this was back in the day when the College of the Mainland musical was still a fairly big deal. And
was Mark Adams or pre-Mark?
It was pre-Mark Adams. It was when Reggie Schwander was there. And so I was like, nah, what the fuck? Went and auditioned, made it into the thing, and this guy that ran the program there was like, you should come to school here. And I was like, I don't know, I need to ask my parents. And he was like, we'll give you a full scholarship. And so I did that, but I didn't really have any sort of connection to theater or anything else. And still at the time, didn't really consider myself like a theater kid. And a couple of years, a year and a half later, he. Now I love seeing theater, but I didn't really.
Right.
Anyway, there was a job that, like a gig that came open at Clear Lake High School. They did this thing called the Senior Musical, and they asked him to direct it, and he was like, I don't want to do it. I've done it a million times. You should do it. And I was like, I don't know anything about directing. Like I literally don't know anything. He was like, what difference does it make? And I was like, okay. And so at the time, I was just dating Amy, my lady friend, my wife, and asked her to choreograph it, and we did that. And I sort of enjoyed being around the kids and things like that, but still didn't know anything about theater. And sort of long story short, went to U of H in theater, and basically convinced them to not make me take any theater classes. and so I graduated with a theater degree, but I only took theater, like maybe 3 theater classes.
Remember what
there.
classes you took?
I took
Like a Doc Berger class or
no.
No.
I took a introduction to scenic design.
Okay.
I
That
took
in Middens?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, no, it was.
Okay.
Mims was my counselor person. He's the guy I talked into not making me take any theater classes. I took intro to theater, and I think that was Kevin Rigdon.
Okay.
I took directing 1, and that was Carolyn Boone.
Okay.
And
Carolyn Boone.
in a lettering class.
Okay.
From
Rigdon probably?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. The rest of them.
I took that lettering class.
Yeah. It was, actually, I really enjoyed it because it was sort of isolary. And the worst part about the intro to scenic class is that you'd have to do your shoebox set or tear a note, whatever.
Yeah,
and then everybody would sit around and talk shit about your thing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I hate this.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care. And Ryan Heitzman was in my class.
Okay.
And he tore my ass up. And I was like,
Screw you, Ryan.
screw you, Ryan Heitzman.
What does that guy know? But
What
yeah,
does he know?
I can't imagine how many Terra Novas. I need to get Kevin on here to just talk about Terra Novas.
Yeah.
Just like bro, you've seen thousands of Terra Nova sets.
Of shoebox sets of, probably hot glue sticks taped together.
Yeah. I would love to just hear who he thinks had the best and who had the worst. And like, is Terra Nova really the barometer?
Yeah. Can you design?
Like, anyway.
And sort of in all that, like, that I enjoyed.
What were you taking? What were you what were you getting credits in?
Same shit everybody else. Like history.
Okay, so you have like a history minor or something? Or?
No.
Oh,
Okay, so
history too. My minor.
basically what I did was I took education classes and got a minor in education, but I didn't, at the time, I just got married, and then after we got married, you hear that, America? After we got married, Amy found out she was pregnant with Nathan and was like, I just need to get out. And so I didn't student teach, I emergency certified and just minored in education. And so, that's kind of how I got into it.
Wow. All right. Yeah. So you never really got into it.
Now, well, the funny story is, I walked into. There's a lot of stuff left out of this, but I don't want to run on. But basically, left College of England, went to McNeese on a full scholarship in theater, and a couple of things. One, I was dating Amy and missed her and wanted to come home. 2, I can't live in Louisiana. 3, I went to like the first day of a movement class. I was like, oh hell no, and walked out of it, and that upset the people that were providing me the scholarship. And then the second part of that was I got cast in the show, and it was Irene Ryan something, and got nominated for some award thing, and I was supposed to go to Washington to do all this. And I was like, I'm not going to Washington. I'm going back to
They
Maryland.
didn't like that.
They did not like that. And they'd said, well, this is the first time, and, forever, I don't know what the date was, that somebody's been nominated. I was like, I couldn't give a shit. I was like, this weekend, I'm going home.
Is that on your resume still, though, that you were nominated for that award?
Yeah, no. Actually, I don't even know if anybody knows that. My mom and dad don't even know. I was just like, I'm not doing it. And then towards the end of that semester, had played a prank on some people that were in my dorm. And so half of my scholarship was an academic scholarship, and half of it was theater. And so I was in the academic honors college, and it basically crawled through the sort of ceiling tiles of this dorm and set up this practical joke, and this practical joke got water all over the place and ruined some guy's paintings or something. And the dean, I was like, do not tell my parents. Please. I was like, if the goal is to get me out of McNeese, problem solved. I'm leaving. And he was like, well, I've got to punish you somehow. I was like, do what you will, just don't go with my parents. I'm leaving, it's not that big a deal. And I had to serve breakfast they had like midnight breakfast from 12 to 4 a.m.
That was your punishment?
Yeah. And so I put on the plastic hat and slung eggs for a week in Lake Chuck.
Wow.
And then left there, and because I needed a place to go to school, I'd gotten another full scholarship to go to U of H Clear Lake. It was an academic thing. Didn't like that sort of vibe. It was a weird place to go. Got another scholarship. This time I was working for the football team at U of H, running handheld camera, and like traveling and for the coaches show and stuff like that. Yeah, it was super cool.
So when you, man, because I just applied for jobs, obviously, and you have to like disclose the schools you went to.
Yeah.
Do you only?
I'm gonna need another blank. I'm gonna need some time.
Yeah.
Actually, I found like I'm gonna segue into to Nathan. Like basically, Nathan applied for his first job and got it. And he and I were talking about interviewing for jobs. I was like, I've never interviewed for a job I didn't get. Thanks, bud. I never interviewed for a job. It's like, no pressure, fathead. And so he just interviewed for his first job and basically.
Well, he's a charismatic kid. I mean, like.
I'm glad you say that. Like, you'll find out soon. Your girls are not quite in high school, right?
No, not yet. Almost 9, almost 5.
Okay, so they're super duper fun when they're little, and then they become less fun when they get into high school.
The fun is already with my oldest. There's less fun.
And then when they get into college, like they're expensive. They're not any fun at all.
It's like a house bill.
And because developmentally they're all sort of sociopaths at that point in their career, it's awful, and it just feels a lot like you're paying for a couch that you don't like.
It's already been urinated on.
Yeah, it's like.
So then
you get it from Aaron.
But you're proud of him for.
For sure.
Yeah. What? So why did he do? He's clearly a theater kid.
Okay, so the funny thing about that is
not the same path that you took at all, really.
Well, this is gonna sound awful for a theater podcast, but I'm not a fan of theater people.
No, I understand that.
And so
I'm the host of the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
I get it. Yeah.
So when Amy was pregnant, I was just like, I hope he's a band kid. And like band kids historically, carry water jugs, smell like the outside. Like, I'm not a fan of band kids necessarily, but I was like, I do not want him to be a theater kid. And when he was maybe 4 or 5, we were doing Music Man at Pearland High School, and we needed a Winthrop. And of course, his grandmother was politicking hard for him to get the job. I was like, I really don't want him to be a theater kid.
Send in a recommendation letter and everything.
The weird thing about Nathan is that he's got like photographic memory when it comes to like melodies and things like that. Like musically, he's quite gifted. Even though, because he went to U of H, they beat the musical out of him there. But anyway, so he played the Winthrop thing. I'll send you a clip of the video later, and he was really good. And then from then on, that's kind of what he was going to do. And the truth of the matter is when he was born, this was before I was teaching, but still directing the senior musical over Clear Lake. And a part of my contract was, I need a room so I can set up his bed. And so even when we were doing that, it's like at 8 o'clock, I'd give the kids a 7-minute break. We'd go put Nathan down in bed in what was basically a choir practice room. He had a bed set up and everything. And so he's grown up in one theater or another for his, basically entire life. He's always been sort of into it, and honestly is probably, like forgotten more about theater than most people will ever know. But I'm super duper excited to see what he does and how he does it and things like that.
I mean, it's a good school where he's going.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of pedigree.
Here's the thing. Right before I left to come here, my wife was like, don't talk shit about the Woodlands to Blake. It's like, true story.
I'm not going to the Woodlands.
Well,
I mean, I'm going to teach in the Woodlands.
Well, the rumor on the street was you're going to the Woodlands. I was like, I hate that place.
The John Cooper School.
And so to me, it's like the Woodlands is like Dallas South.
Oh yeah. No, the Woodlands. You mean the Woodlands proper? Like, no. Again, we're living in Tomball.
Okay, that's fine. So, you get a pass on that. I'm not gonna talk shit.
So you hate Dallas?
Yeah, I hate it. And so we went up there a couple of weeks ago, or more than a couple of weeks ago, to watch Matt and Corbin at the state contest, and we drove up to Keller to sort of look around. It looks like a super nice place, and the school, we didn't go in, but the school is like gigantic, gigantic, and so I think that probably his plan is to teach 5 to 8 years and then go to grad school and so we'll see how all that turns out.
Is he? Do you hate him a little bit more or like him less because he's going to be living in Dallas, or do you trust your child not to fall into the pit that is? No.
Okay, so Nathan, not to take over your podcast, but like
take it over.
The Texans are a total and complete dumpster fire. And I told you a second ago, like, we're season ticket holders, and I grew up on the Oilers, the Texans, and every time the Texans suck, which has been a few times in Nathan's lifetime, he's like, I'm going to be a Seattle fan, I'm going to be a San Diego Chargers fan. I'm like, what are you talking about, San Diego? Like, they're literally worse than the Texans, asshole. And so I'm afraid that he's going to go up there and become a Cowboys fan.
So I'll tell you this, because I lived a year of my life in Dallas courting my wife. And luckily it works because I got her back here. Right?
The power of love. Good job, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Well played.
So I will tell you this. The one thing that Dallas has that Texas, or that Houston doesn't when it comes to their sports, better sports radio. Their sports radio game is like on a completely different level. And so it makes you listen to it and you're like, okay, all right, come on, Rangers. Like, and then you stop listening. And you
that would be the worst.
Yeah,
like I could almost live with him being a Cowboys fan, but if he became a Rangers fan,
and you start to like believe in that stuff, and then you realize, oh my God, what was brainwashing me?
Yeah. Then you realize they don't even have theaters on the freeways here.
Right.
These people, undateable. Everybody in Dallas. Now your wife's from Dallas.
She is. But I mean, it took a while for me to fall in love. It wasn't love at first sight. So it's kind of a growing love, if you will. Still growing.
It'd be tough. Amy cut her hand yesterday, really bad, and like I've got a hard rule. It's like if you're missing a leg, done.
Yeah. Right.
If like you have something, like I'm not. I'm not gonna be married to somebody that's missing a foot. Duh. And so she was like, I think it's infected. And I was like, look at it.
Yeah,
Clock's ticking. You better wrap it up, do what you got to do. But fingers are the same as toes, are the same as...
I want to go back to the Oilers thing.
Yeah.
So did you understand, or were you angry when they left?
Angry.
Yeah.
They left, and I think it was right after I sort of graduated high school. Yeah. And so angry. And the weird thing is I love the Nashville. I think you and I talked about the last one. But and so when the Texans play Tennessee, we would go up there and watch the games, and we were sitting out there drinking beer, hanging out, before the game, and of course I'm head to toe and in Texan stuff, and some Texans guy comes up to me and was like, "You're a Texans fan?" I was like, "Duh," and he was like, "There you go," and he handed me a field pass. And so I was like, "That's really cool, thank you." And so I went on the field and watched them warm up, whatever. And they take all of those people, and then you have to go back up to the stands when the game starts. So I'm waiting for the elevator to take me back up, and the elevator door opens up, and it's Bud Adams. And I was like, I cannot.
This is my chance.
If I'm ever going to assault somebody, I'm probably quick enough. He was in a wheelchair,
right.
and I had the appropriate amount of ire towards him.
Right.
And so, not a fan of Bud Adams. Was not a fan of him, taking the team. And for a couple of years, I was an accountant for the Landry's Corporation, and Bud Adams still lived in Houston. Yeah. Even though the team was in Nashville, and he would land his helicopter on Landry's corporate office and sort of go through. Now, anytime that would happen, they would sort of clear the deck, and so you'd never see him. But I was like, I cannot stand this guy.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. I'm where I'm about to be teaching. They were, when I was interviewing, they were giving me the laundry list of the kids of quote unquote celebrities that go to the school, and the only one that stuck out to me was AJ Hinch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and one of his kids has recently graduated.
Yeah.
The other one is still at the school. And it's like,
and so his family still lives here in Houston?
Yeah, I like AJ Hinch. He's not Bud Adams.
Oh, for sure.
No, I love the man. But I found that to be interesting that there's still some people still keep Houston. Chris Paul still has a Houston home.
Well, actually, a lot of professional athletes have houses
no
here.
Taxes.
Yeah. The tax situation.
Yeah. So when I was, I think, a senior in high school, we went trick-or-treating in what part of Sugarland, the wealthy part of Sugarland, I don't remember what part. And we knock on the door, and the woman opens up the door and hands us candy, but we can see pictures of Shaquille O'Neal in the background.
Yeah.
And so my loud mouth was like, "Why are you such a fan of Shaquille O'Neal?" She was like, "It's my boyfriend." Now I don't know. I thought he was married. I don't know. I didn't want to pry.
You're gonna out Shaquille O'Neal's
I don't care. He could sue
side
me.
piece.
He could sue me for all $200 I'm worth.
But no, he has a house in Pearland. Yeah.
But if it's like,
Did you hear that, Stuart? He has a house in Pearland. All these athletes, the humidity doesn't bother them at all.
Yeah. So it doesn't bother. Yeah. Trying to move. Anyway, but it's just that's kind of crazy to me that some of those guys are they're still Houstonians, even though I know this is house one of 8.
50.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So
right outside of our neighborhood,
you're a lot more generous than I am.
There's a guy that lives right across the street. Not across the street, like we live in a tract home subdivision, but across the street from our subdivision, there's a basketball player that has what could best be described as a compound there. Yeah. But I can't remember who it is. It's not Carmelo Anthony. It's an island.
Yeah, but are you a Rockets fan at all?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if your allegiance was baseball, football, and then
Well, to be honest,
I haven't been a Rockets fan since they had Harden. I never liked Harden.
oh, you didn't like Harden?
Never liked Harden.
Why is that?
You know, and you would understand this, being raised with the Otis Thorpe, Vernon Maxwell type people that were selfless and like were crisp and like really just good at the fundamental element of basketball.
Yeah.
Harden wasn't. Harden,
Yeah.
Harden could shoot. He is potentially one of the best scorers during his time.
I'm glad you said it like that. Like, he's a great scorer. He's not what I would call a pure shooter.
He's a lazy passer.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just like, I don't know, man. I was never a fan.
But I'll say going to a Rockets game, because like if you go to a Texans game, that's like 4 to 6 hours out of your day.
Yeah, so
like you can literally go to a Rockets game,
it's a commitment.
do it in 2.5 hours. It's a good time, and so Amy loves going to Rockets games. Now they're literally awful.
Yeah.
Sports in Houston right now is a total train wreck.
Well, yeah, the Astros are not great, but they're not bad.
Yeah. Well, and they'd actually be pretty good if the bullpen wasn't in such bad shape.
If they could get somebody to pitch the 7th and 8th innings, they'd be great right now. But unfortunately,
that's part of the game. So, the bullpen is tragic.
all right, so I have to ask you about, because I know it gets you fired up, because last time we hung out, the only thing you got fired up about was the Congo. So as a lighting person, and on the record, this sounds cheesy the way I'm asking you, but I gotta, we have to explore so here's what's confusing is you're not really a theater person.
No.
And I totally understand that, because I don't want to keep this about me, because
It should be about you.
no,
I'm still waiting for the wisdom part of Minor to come out, but
so is everybody
you
else.
better be buying this
I keep
meal.
teasing them
So-
every week. They're just
Super
waiting,
disappointed.
just waiting. But I was the kid that knew like the number of the jersey to the lineman on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
You know, like I just knew all these like stupid
Are you from there?
facts. No, I've used Buffalo. I don't know why Buffalo popped in my head, but no, I just knew all these really unnecessary facts about sports.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't an athlete, but I was a number. I knew everything about sports when I was a kid. Now to an extent, but not as much. But anyway, the reason I say that is because as you're that guy as a theater person, it feels like to me, like you know stuff about theater.
Yeah.
You're not really. It's not really your thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, I've done it for a long time, and so
but for some reason you have a reputation. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm here to debunk that reputation.
Obviously I did theater for a long time. And, like, theater to me, like, you'll see on Facebook, right? All these people, it's like the world needs more artists and all this stuff. It's like, that's horseshit. The world doesn't need more artists. The world needs a couple more doctors, maybe a politician that doesn't suck. The world needs a lot of things before it needs artists. And so it's like, I'm not really an artist. And I think that theater is like the only profession that's like, if you like it, you can say you are. Like, if you love baseball, you can't say you're a baseball player. If you love the law, you can't really just say you're an attorney or a doctor, heaven forbid. It's like you love medicine, blood,
Unless you
bones,
stay at Holiday
whatever.
Inn Express.
Yeah. But it's like, but theater seems to be the only thing. It's like, I can't paint. And so I shouldn't really be able to call myself an artist. And it's like, in my life, I've done 3 or 4 things right in the theater world, but I've done 400 million things wrong,
Why do you think you had success? Like, do you just know the formula? Like,
well, I don't even know. Like, it depends on, I guess, success is relative.
One act play success.
But we were unsuccessful in UIL more than we were successful. I don't know. Like for me, if you teach kids to show up on time, you teach kids to work as hard as they possibly can, you teach kids to love each other, then if you do all that, then you'll be in the room in theater. But if you do all that,
I'll do it.
If you do all that, you'll be in the room in the baseball team. If
Yeah.
you do all that, you'll be in the room for just about anything.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we were teaching is, show up on time, work hard, love the person next to you. And so it just happened. Theater was the delivery device for that.
Right.
Now there are people in this world that are artists, and I don't begrudge them anything. Like the world needs them. Like Stewart is an artist. Like he's really good at Yale. It's bullshit, right? He didn't. Fun fact: he didn't go to Yale. He was at Pitt.
Yeah.
About when Good Will Hunting came out. He got a job as custodian at Yale.
He's
He-
nothing without
nighttime,
Matt. Nothing without Matt. Yeah.
nighttime custodian at Yale. Would scribble a bunch of shit on the board. Just made more work for the morning custodial crew. That doesn't mean you went to Yale.
Call
I-
himself an artist.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. I keep looking at the microphone
Like it's going to respond.
like it can see me. It's like, obviously,
Oh,
can't see my eye
Stewart-
patch.
Stewart will reply.
I doubt he'll listen to this. He's heard it all before.
Yeah.
But,
So, could you see yourself doing sports now? Coaching?
no, because
Because I'm looking for a coach right now for my daughter.
she needs a hitting coach. I can do that.
Yeah.
No, because my dispassion for being outside was real. Like when I texted you, I got here before you did a little bit. Then I was like outside or inside. I was just being nice. Like if you said outside, I would have.
You would have left.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm here to meet a guy. And
I almost left,
this
didn't I?
place is empty. No, I understand. I totally understand. Part of the only reason right now that I'm like, well, I got to leave the outside option open is because of the freaking pandemic. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know how many people are.
What a train wreck.
Yeah. So, but as we sit inside, not socially distant from anybody.
Yeah.
Coughing on.
Yeah,
everyone,
Texas was
just-
super
just-
ready to throw down the
Well,
mask.
what's awesome? So I'm a huge wrestling fan, as you know. And
Okay,
Jay,
so
Jay
fun
Thomas.
fun fact number 2.
Yeah.
Jay was like, I was gonna do something with Jay. He was like, Ken, I'm doing a podcast. I was like, shut up! You're doing a podcast? What are you doing?
It's a
And
good
it's about Buddy. It's about wrestling. I was like, I used to like when I was a kid. I would go to the Coliseum, watch Paul Bosch, and that whole thing. I was like, that's awesome. And then Jay told me when the podcast came out, and he asked me later if I listened to it, and of course I said yes, but which is a lie.
Yeah.
It's a total lie.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I mean, I have the algorithm to set up to see when you listen and when you don't. So I don't even remember why I said that. Why did I bring you into it? Why did I?
We were talking about the Congo.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. The Congo has nothing to do with wrestling, but okay. So the Congo. All right. Here's my thing. This past year I spent on a CAM-SIS, which is I believe an English board. I believe.
Okay.
And when I sat down at it, I hated it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to lead myself into telling you how much I appreciate your struggle, or maybe not struggle. But I learned it, and I was like, okay, this is kind of a cute little powerful board. And it's no bigger than this. It's one of those, and that's where everything is leading. Even soundboards right now are turning into the smaller the better. How many buttons can I press to create more channels? That kind of stuff. I've never said this on here, and I think I've told you this, but I competed at your school when I was with Pam Wilson at Morton Ranch, and the introduction I had to you, other than email, was you were sitting behind your Congo board. And at that time, I was a punk kid that thought I knew everything about light boards and lights and everything. I didn't.
Actually, that day you came to the school, I went out and bought a pair of shoes exactly like you were wearing the next day. Yeah. Besides, I got mine in blue. Yours were in black and white.
Okay.
I was like,
I didn't know that.
I like
that
those
part I
shoes.
didn't
Yeah.
know.
True story.
But it's good to know.
You hear that,
End
America?
of podcast.
True story.
Yeah. But I remember thinking, like, because you said to me, this is part of my punk kidness. You said, hey man, if you need some help, programming and cues, let me know. I think we sent you the cues and you programmed, but
Yeah.
you were saying if you need help editing. And I was like, no, I got this. And I sat down on the board and I was like, holy shit, no, I don't have this. And I think eventually Pam got onto me and I had to like call you over and be like, Mr. Unroe,
Yeah.
would you? So,
Well, okay, so here's the thing, like with the Congo, like we were getting an upgrade in lighting at Pearland High School. We're getting some moving lights, and it was one of the, I wouldn't say it's the first, but it was one of the first schools that were getting like a big stock of moving lights. And at the time, the Express series, Expression, all that, it hadn't gone away, but they were doing away with it, and you couldn't run all this stuff on an Express. In the Expression, they said you shouldn't get this because it's
going to be obsolete.
going to be obsolete. Well, kind of at the same time, High End had sort of moved. They didn't abandon the hog board, but they had moved into the Studio Color, the Studio Wash, the Studio 250s, the X-Spot, and it had reached the end of that, and they didn't have any R&D going on. It was right before High End took a big dip, and so at the time, it was really before the dawn of the Grand MA. It was before the Ion. It was before the EOS. It was before like Hog 4 or really Hog 3, which brought them back in.
Hog 3, yeah.
And so ETC said, we just bought this company out of Europe. I think it was called Avab, and this is what we're selling until we get the Ion and the EOS ready. Well, I'd never used moving lights. I didn't know anything about it other than I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so they gave us a Congo board, and like if you look at the serial number on our Congo board, I told you this before, it was like 00000004. It was like the fourth one off the production line. And at the time, like it didn't make any difference to me that it was hard to use because
You're gonna learn something.
I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anything about anything. And Strand was about to get bought by Philips. Like the lighting, the console world was about to flip, and it just hadn't done it yet. And so they sent me this thing. Even the guys at Stage Light at the time, like they didn't know how to use it, and they fucked with this thing for 3 or 4 hours. And I basically, like it was Jerome and Devlin at the time. I was like, y'all get out of here. Let me just jack with it. And at the time, like we built the sets for our musicals over Christmas break. So we had worked from 9 a.m. to about 10 p.m. I'd let the kids go, grab something to eat, go back up to the school, and from like 11 till like 3 or 4 in the morning, just trying to figure out how to use this thing. And like right now, if I were to like go change the oil in your car, like you would have some sort of concept as to what it was, but if you had never seen a car before, you'd be like, what am I doing? It was really before YouTube as well. And so I just sort of taught myself how to use this board. And so the big thing behind it isn't the functionality of the board. Like the board can literally do anything. The issue with the Congo and the Cobalt that came behind it was the syntax of it. Like in an Express, it was channel 1 at full, channel 1 at 50, record cue 1, and the Congo was what they called reverse Polish or whatever, which was 1 channel full at. Instead of channel 1 at full, it was 1 channel full at. But once you figured out the sort of syntax of it all, it was fine. And because that's the only thing that I'd ever known. Like you said, I'm a lighting person. I'm not really a lighting person. Like I like messing around with it. But I don't know, like I'm not educated in lighting, and certainly just about anybody that knows. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's like a hobby. Yeah. And so I had that Congo. We basically.
But you became kind of like the IT.
Well, once they come out with the EOS Ion, that whole line, ETC jumped ship on it. nobody there liked it because they all grew up in the express world. They didn't want to learn how to use it. And they were convinced this thing was a piece of shit, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. Like, and so my issue, like with the Ion and all that, is that it wants to work like the Express. Like, it's a tracking board, and like you've worked in high schools long enough, you know, it's like it's very rare that you have times like, this is my lighting plot, this is my magic sheet, these are the cues that I want to run. You know, basically you chunk something up there and you record the show in game. Like, you know, you're doing it during a tech rehearsal or something, you're changing stuff. And the Ion and the EOS, it's literally terrible for that. Like, as long as you're recording in an order, and you don't need submasters or anything like that, it does fine. But like Hog, Grand MA, and Congo is good about, you can do anything. Right. You can set it up any way you want, and you can run it like a DJ.
And your dance teacher who doesn't know exactly what cues they want, but they know they want, or if they want red and blue at some point, like, you can program it all so that. And
in and out of order, you can call up things, you can move things in. You know, it's like dance shows. For most dance shows, you know, I usually record somewhere between 150 to 300 cues for a dance show, right? Well, it's only 150 to 300 cues because it's really 600 to 1,000 cues, but I can do it in 150 to 300 because I can move and wiggle and dynamic effects and stuff, clear out of that and go to the next cue. And so basically, I'm just recording setups all the way through. And so, you know, ETC, when they sold a shit ton of these things to like churches and people, they didn't know how to use it, or if something would go wrong, they would call me and say, hey, we've got this, and I was like, it's video card. Pop off the top, blow in it. You know, it's just like an old, you know, DS cartridge or something. You blow in it, put it back in, and go. And when we just got an upgraded board at Deer Park High School, and I told Eric, I was like, I want a Congo. And he's like, I'm not selling you a Congo. I was like, fuck you, man. Like, that's what I want. And he was like, they don't even make them. And it sort of broke my heart. He's like, nobody wanted this thing besides you. And I was like, this board could literally do anything. Right. Like, you could set it up like a tracking board, and you could run it just like, you know, Death of a Salesman 1952. Or, like, everything's going now to moving lights, LEDs, like dynamic effects, things like that. The Ion is the worst. And when I left Pearland to go to Dawson, I would go over there twice a week to show them how to use it. And they were convinced it was the board. And I kept telling them, I'm not going to mention any names, it's not the board. It's like, you're just being lazy. Just learn. It's not record one at cue. It's one cue record at.
You know, my wife has told me for many, many years, and I've got a couple other director friends, Destiny Miller being one of them. It's like, you know, in college you never learn how to run a light board.
Yeah.
You don't, unless you are the lighting person, they don't teach how to run a light board class. And with that, they don't teach that there are varieties.
Yeah.
So if you are a lighting kid, like let's say, you know, a modern day lighting kid is at a certain college with a certain light board, they rarely tell you, you know, there are other light boards out there that do other things and that speak in different languages and all this kind of stuff. And
it's one of the things that I taught Nathan when he was little. Like, Nathan's been going to New York and London since he was 3 years old. Yeah. And like, we always sort of stroll by to see what they're running back of the house. I always get them to look up and it's like, you know, look what's going on up here. And it's changed a lot. You know, back in the day when they had 4 or 5, you know, Les Mises circling the country or whatever, it was an old strand board that ran all of those tours. And if like you look up in the balconies, they'd put, you know, these light trees up there, and they'd have like Lecos from 1958. Right. Like, there's a ton of lights. You know, it's like, really, you only need 15 lights. You just need 15 moving lights. Yeah. But you know, these old war horses, they're like, I like the light that the 6x9 puts out, and so there's 4 of those or something like that. Okay, so 2 things on what you just said. One, is what they teach these kids in college. Like, and a friend of mine and I were texting back and forth about it. It's like they're trying to churn out artists. They're trying to, and so more than anything, what they sort of teach them is this sort of mindset, in my opinion, that's sort of closed off to. It doesn't make them expand. It makes them sort of condense, instead of saying everything is good. And Stuart was sharing this new musical that he found with me the other day, and he's like, you probably won't like it. I was like, I love everything. Like, I literally love everything. I almost have never seen a musical that I didn't like. Like, when people go to one-act play, like, you talk to people like, the blocking's this or this, like, all they're looking for is what they don't like, instead of looking for, something. Like, there's always some kid up there that's doing something. You can't teach another kid, or even if their sort of vision is hid behind gray UIL, whatever, like, somebody gave up 3 months of their life to do this and probably deserve a little bit better than us sitting like a bunch of jackasses in the audience sort of critiquing, figuring out what they don't like about it. And so to that point in college, I wish they did more, show them good theater, and like, let's talk about the things that work instead of about the things that don't work. Teach them how to use light boards, teach them how to use light boards, plural. The automated lights, and what happens is they always have some lighting guy that's some old dusty something that doesn't want to teach them about LED lights because the old lights, this light provides a warmer whatever. So that's one thing. I think that we do a disservice to the people that are that we're educating. The second thing you mentioned, Destiny Miller. Okay, so we went to the
Stages.
Yeah, her show was great.
Yeah,
it was like great.
Yeah, Amy said she cried.
Yeah, a lot. Women, right? Who needs?
Well, so okay, not to keep harping on this lighting thing, but I'm convinced that one of the best things that ETC did for themselves was install this ETC net thing, because it makes you. I mean, you could have other equipment in there, but really it's designed so that you only use their equipment. Yeah. But one of the worst things for education is ETC net, because I love the idea of your proscenium space using X light board and your black box space using Y light board, because it gets kids, not to sound like this nerdy educator, but it just gets kids to like learn two different worlds. I say that because when I started with Straight No Chaser, I used the Hog 2, and it became a popular term to call an early blackout a blakeout. And it wasn't that I didn't know the song or didn't know the cues. It was I didn't know the board well enough, because I had never really messed with the Hog 2. But when I took the job, they're like, "Here's the board you have. Good luck." And so I had 3 days of rehearsal to learn the ins and out of a Hog 2, and it was tough, while programming. So I learned very quickly that when you go from one page to the next page, it just completely wipes out everything that was on the previous page. And so I would go. It is interesting with light boards how it's like whoever makes them, it's like you'll do something that's like, I wonder why they did that. Like I'm sure if you talk to them, it's an hour and a half podcast on. Well, it has to blank out because but it's just like it made me realize. I would have rather, because I learned at HSPBA, we had, I guess, Expression, right? Was that white light board or whatever? So we had one of the first, because of Nick Phillips, because of his hookups and his silver spoon in his mouth, but I don't think he listens, but I love Nick. But,
he probably does.
Yeah. But
I actually told my mom, I was like, I can't on Sunday and do the podcast. Schroeder,
but But anyway, he got us hooked up with this Expression 3 when I was a sophomore, junior in high school. It was like one of the first times we ever had one of these. Before that, we're sitting there with fader after fader after fader. Yeah. Your little sheet that says, okay, Q1 is 1 at 60, and then you push this fader, and then we jump into an Expression. But I only would ever learn an expression from that point on because then I went to UH and it was an obsession, which I don't know why they changed the name. It was an expression.
It was an extra white.
Yeah, it was super. Yeah, not off-white. Now we're at like super
real
white.
white.
Yeah. But anyway, so my point is going on with that. I need you to say something profound so I can stop recording.
Is it time? Are we done?
No.
Okay.
I just want to shoot the shit now.
I don't have anything profound. I'm sure this won't even air.
Minor